I pull into my driveway after leaving work early, my head pounding and body hot with a fever. I stop in my tracks when I see it. A massive Hawthorne Brothers moving truck parked in front of my house, its side door wide open. Behind it are my younger sister's SUV and my parents' sedan, just sitting there. I freeze, keys still gripped in my hand. I didn't hire movers. I sure as hell didn't plan to move. I take a step closer, heart thumping as I try to make sense of what I'm seeing. Moving truck, my sister's car, my parents here. The reality settles like a weight in my chest. My blood runs cold. Dad, I call, but my voice sounds wrong. Too hoarse from the fever, too shaken. I step into the house. My parents are boxing up my things like it's some kind of normal Saturday. Dad's pulling my sports memorabilia off the shelves and stacking it into a box, like it's just some crap to get rid of. Mom's wrapping my dishes in bubble wrap with an unbothered expression, like she's done this 100 times before. I don't know what I'm looking at, or what I'm supposed to do. Mom, Dad, what the hell is going on? I demand, my voice finally making it past my throat, loud enough that it echoes off the walls. They act like they didn't hear me, or maybe they just don't care. "Oh, you're home," Dad says, barely glancing over his shoulder, as if this is just some minor inconvenience. "We were just helping you move. Melanie and Travis need the space more than you do." I stare at him. "Helping me move? I didn't ask for movers. I didn't plan to move. What the hell is happening?" My mother finally looks up from the dishes. "It's for the best, honey. You don't need such a big house, especially now that you're, well, you know, single, no plans for kids." My stomach twists. "What?" I say, almost too quietly. "What did you just say?" "Melanie's got a family now, and they're gonna need space. You'll be happier, trust me," Mom says with that soft, insistent tone. "We all decided this is best. She and Travis can raise their kid here." "We all decided?" I repeat, the words tasting bitter as they leave my mouth. "Who the hell is we?" "Well, your sister and Travis talked it over with us," Dad adds, walking past me, stacking a few more of my things into boxes like it's his goddamn duty. "We all think this place is just too much for you now. You'll be happier in a smaller place. And Melanie's always had an eye on this one." I shake my head, anger starting to flare up, mixing with the sickness in my gut. "Stop. Right. Fucking now." They keep moving, unfazed. Mom goes back to wrapping my favorite dishes in bubble wrap, and Dad's pushing another box across the floor. It's like I'm not even here. I grab the nearest box and push it aside, making my presence impossible to ignore. "Stop packing my stuff," I snap. "I'm not going anywhere. What the hell are you doing?" "Sweetheart, you're just too much of a bachelor to keep all this space," Mom says, as though she's explaining something very reasonable, like I'm a child who doesn't understand. "It's about family, we've all agreed." I want to scream. I want to throw something. But what comes out is just a cold, controlled question. Since when do I get told what to do with my own life? "Since you stopped caring about family," Dad mutters under his breath, so low I almost don't hear it. I move closer, grabbing him by the shoulder, forcing him to turn around and look at me. "You really think I'm selfish for not giving up my house? For not letting Melanie and Travis—" I choke on the words. "Take everything?" "You're just too proud to see it, Daniel," he says, his voice flat, like it's nothing but a simple fact. "You don't need it. You're single, and we've all decided." I feel a deep, sickening rush of anger wash over me, so sharp I almost feel dizzy. This house was my dream. I worked my ass off for it, and now they're telling me it's not mine anymore because they think I'm just, what? Too alone to deserve it? "Get out. Get the hell out of my house," I tell them, my voice low, dangerous. But they don't listen. They just keep packing. This isn't a family. This is a group of people who have taken everything from me, and now they're trying to take the one thing I had left. I feel it, deep in my gut. This is the end of something, and it's not going to be a quiet ending. My name's Daniel. I'm 42 years old, senior operations manager at a logistics company. Been grinding since I was 18. No handouts, no college debt. I work double shifts to cover tuition and work my ass off every single day to get where I am. When I was finally in a position to make some real moves, I bought my dream place. A 3-bedroom brick ranch with a big garage, perfect for my restored '72 Chevy pickup. It was everything I wanted. My parents were proud at first. You could see it in their faces when I signed the papers, but that faded. It wasn't long before the tone shifted, and I started getting the questions. When are you going to give your mother grandkids? Or, that house is too much for one man, don't you think? I just brushed it off. But it was like a damn crack that kept spreading. Every Sunday dinner, every holiday, every phone call, it was always the same. When are you going to settle down? You're not getting any younger. They made it sound like I was some kind of failure because I wasn't married, didn't have kids. It was easier to ignore at first. But then Melanie, my younger sister, got married, and that's when everything really started to fall apart. Her husband, Travis, was a job-hopping handyman who was more into craft beer than actually holding a steady job. I never liked the guy. There was something about him, that constant excuse-making, that never-ending optimism about finding himself while mooching off people around him. But Melanie loved him, so I helped, a lot. I gave them $10,000 for their wedding when they were short on cash, and I covered their first year's car insurance when they hit a rough patch. I thought it was the right thing to do. That's what family does, right? You help. But when I gave them that money, I started feeling something in my gut. That feeling you get when you've done something because it was expected, not because it was what you wanted. I didn't want to be the one holding everything together anymore, but I couldn't stop. My parents always looked at me like I was the responsible one, the guy who could handle things. Melanie needed help, so I gave it. But it was never enough. It would never be enough. After the wedding, it didn't get better. Every family dinner, every family event, there was this growing sense of, this sense that they all thought I should just keep giving, that because I was single, with no kids, I had nothing better to do than play ATM for the rest of them. I used to shrug it off. But when Melanie started hinting at things, dropping little comments about how nice it must be to have a garage big enough for 2 cars, or how kids need a yard, I could feel it, the push. And I'm not an idiot. I knew what was coming. They all wanted my house. It wasn't a joke anymore. It wasn't a subtle suggestion. And then one Sunday, she made her big announcement. "I'm pregnant," she said, with that wide grin on her face. She expected applause. Instead, Mom clapped her hands and immediately said, "Well, you and Travis are going to need more space now. You've got plenty, Daniel." I shut it down right there. "No, I don't. This isn't happening," I told them. But Dad, looking at me with that disappointed frown, spoke up. "What does a single man need with all that room?" He said it like it was a fact. That one stung. Not because it was true, but because I realized it wasn't about the house. It was never about the house. It was about me being single, about me not fitting into their version of what family was. They didn't care that I worked my ass off to get here. They didn't care that I'd bought this house on my own, with my own money. To them, it was all just excess. Because I didn't fit the picture of a real family, I didn't deserve it. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. This isn't up for discussion, okay? It's not happening. But they weren't listening. They never did. Sunday dinners became a battlefield. Melanie, Travis, and my parents would sit around the table, like they always had. But now it was different. They had a mission, and I was the target. "It must be nice to have a garage big enough for 2 cars, Melanie would say, her eyes gliding over me like I wasn't even there. It was a casual comment, but it wasn't really casual. She said it with that fake sweetness she always used when she wanted something. "Kids need a yard, Travis would chime in, leaning back in his chair like he was the expert on parenting. "A house like yours deserves a real family in it, don't you think?" I didn't even look at him. What the hell did he know about families? The guy couldn't hold down a job for more than a few months without making some excuse about finding his true calling. The whole situation made me sick, but I didn't say anything. Not at first. But it wasn't just them. My parents sat there, nodding along, agreeing with every word. Like they didn't know I'd been paying part of Melanie's utility bills for 2 years. Like they didn't know I was the one who'd helped out every single time they needed something. It didn't matter. I could feel the pressure building, and I realized what they were doing. They weren't outright asking for my house yet, but they didn't need to. They were wearing me down, slowly but surely. I'd been ignoring it, hoping it would stop, hoping they'd just get the hint. But no. One Sunday, as I helped myself to a plate of food, Mom made her big announcement. "Melanie's pregnant," she said, her voice beaming with pride. "And with a baby on the way, she and Travis are going to need more space. And Daniel, well, you've got plenty." I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. I looked at Mom, then at Dad, then Melanie, and finally Travis. You're kidding, right? I asked, my voice quieter than I wanted it to be. I wasn't even sure I could control the anger rising in me. No, honey, Mom said, like I was the one being unreasonable. It just makes sense. Your sister and Travis will need more room for their growing family. You don't need such a big house. I've told you this already, I said, setting my fork down. I'm not giving up my house. Not now, not ever. It's mine. You're single, Daniel. What do you need all that space for? Dad's voice was low, measured, but it hit harder than any of the previous comments. That stung. I didn't know why it hurt so much. Maybe it was because I'd spent so many years busting my ass to get here, to finally have something that was all mine, and now they were telling me it wasn't enough. It was like I wasn't enough. I don't need your approval, I said, standing up. I don't need you to decide what's best for me. Mom and Dad exchanged a glance. Melanie and Travis kept quiet, like they were just waiting for the moment to come. Dad finally sighed, as if he were just trying to get through this without another fight. It's not about approval, Daniel. It's about family. You're the only one who doesn't get that. I was done. I couldn't sit there anymore, not when they were looking at me like I was the problem. Yeah, I get it. You want my house, but I'm not giving it to you, so you can stop trying. I didn't wait for their response. I walked out, my mind racing with everything that had just been said. It was clear now. This wasn't about family. It was about convenience, about me being the one who always said yes. And they had used that, used me, for years. But I wasn't going to let them do it anymore. A week after the Sunday dinner, they formalized it. I thought maybe it was just a bad dream, but no. They came to me with it, an actual proposal. You need to sign over the house to Melanie, my dad said, sitting across from me like this was a business meeting. And in return, we'll give you our condo. It's smaller, but it'll work. We'll be happy with that. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. You're serious, Mom chimed in with that familiar soft voice. It's about family, not money, Daniel. It's what's best for everyone. You're talking about money, though, I shot back. This house is worth 3 times what your condo is. Don't pretend it's not about money. We're not talking about money here, Dad said, his voice dropping a little, but still full of that same sense of entitlement. It's about what's right. Melanie and Travis are starting a family. You don't need all that room anymore. Travis sat there, smug as usual, smiling like this was already a done deal. We'll paint the nursery this summer, he added, as if that somehow made it official. I couldn't keep the disbelief off my face. Are you kidding me? You're acting like this is already decided. Well, it is, Travis said, like it was the most logical thing in the world. You've got a house. We've got a baby on the way. Makes sense, right? My mind was spinning. They were acting like I owed them this. I'd been paying part of Melanie's utility bills for the last 2 years. I'd handed over $10,000 for her wedding. I'd covered their first year's car insurance. And now they wanted more. No, this is not happening, I said, my voice steady but firm. You're not taking my house. Not now, not ever. Mom tried to soften it. It's for Melanie and Travis. They need this. You're not using all that space, Daniel. It's just too much for one man. I couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. I'm not using it for a family, no. But I'm using it for me, for my life. And I'm not giving it up for you to make your life easier. Dad leaned forward, his face hardening. What do you want, Daniel? You want to keep the house for yourself? To keep it empty and just sit there? It's a waste. I was done being polite. No, what I want is to stop being treated like a damn bank account that you can raid whenever you feel like it. I'm not giving you my house just because you think you're entitled to it. There was a long, heavy silence. My parents exchanged glances, but neither of them spoke up. And then Travis, acting like I was the unreasonable one, tried to jump in. Man, you're being ridiculous. We're family. We're just trying to make it work for everyone. Family? I snapped. You don't get to make demands like this. You don't get to take my house and call it family. You've been using me for years. This is where it stops. Mom's face twisted with frustration. You're being selfish. Melanie and Travis need this. And what about me? I shot back. What about my needs? All this time, I've been the one helping, the one giving, and now I'm supposed to just roll over and let you take what's mine. Travis didn't like that. You're making this harder than it has to be, man. Just sign it over and we can all move forward. I'm not signing anything, I said flatly. You want it? You're going to have to find a way to make it happen yourself, because I'm done. That's when they really pulled out all the stops. Over the next few days, my phone blew up with texts and voicemails. My mom sent guilt-laden messages about how this was for the family and how Melanie was going to need a backyard for the baby. My dad said I was being unreasonable and difficult. The kicker? They sent me a picture of the ultrasound. "Here's the baby," my mom wrote in the message. "A baby needs space." It was like they thought sending me a picture of the baby would somehow make me cave, that they could guilt me into giving up my life for them. But I didn't cave, not this time. I let the messages pile up and didn't respond to a single one. I didn't owe them anything, not now, not ever. The fever hit me harder that day. I wasn't thinking straight when I pulled into the driveway, the house looking exactly how I left it. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt it, the shift in the air. It wasn't just quiet, it was wrong. The sound of boxes being taped shut, Dad's voice in the other room. I rubbed my forehead, trying to shake off the dizziness. Maybe I was imagining things. I walked deeper into the house, and there they were. Mom, standing at the kitchen counter, wrapping up the last of my dishes in bubble wrap. Dad, pulling my sports memorabilia off the shelf, shoving it into a box like it was a pile of junk. "What the hell is this?" I managed, my voice thick with fever and confusion. I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to think I was just tired. But no. They were packing my life up, like it wasn't mine to keep. Mom froze, and Dad slowly looked over his shoulder, his eyes wide, like I'd caught them doing something they were only half aware of. "Oh, you're home," Dad said, trying to play it cool, but his voice cracked. "We knew you'd come around, Daniel. We booked the movers. Everything's set." "Stop," I said, swallowing hard. "What are you doing?" "Well, helping you move into Melanie's place," Mom said, as though it was the simplest thing in the world. She sounded so calm, like this was just another errand on a Saturday. My heart was pounding in my chest now. "I didn't ask for your help," I snapped, my voice rising. "Stop packing my shit, right now." Dad looked at me, almost pitying. "We're just doing what's best for you, Daniel. It's time. Melanie needs more space, and frankly, you've been alone for too long. You don't need all that room. Don't give me that crap." I could barely control myself now, everything in me ready to explode. "I'm not moving, and I sure as hell don't need you two deciding what's best for me." "Daniel," Mom said, that soft, placating tone in her voice. "It's not about what you want. It's what's best for the family." The family. That was all I needed to hear. I turned and marched upstairs, my fever worsening. But something inside me was clearer than ever. They thought they had the right to take everything from me just because they'd helped raise me. That's when the decision clicked into place. I grabbed my phone, and my fingers were steady as I dialed 911. "Hello, I need to report a break-in," I said when the operator picked up. "They're in my house, packing up my things, and I never gave them permission to do this." I hung up and walked back downstairs, not caring if they heard me. I didn't want to be here, but I had to make a stand. I wasn't going to let them walk all over me anymore. This wasn't about moving out. This was about me taking my life back. I barely had time to sit down before I heard the sirens. The officers arrived quickly, and it didn't take them long to confirm what I already knew. I hadn't given permission for anyone to pack up my things, let alone hire movers. They walked through the house, checking the boxes Dad had filled, the piles of clothes and memorabilia stuffed into bags. "We're gonna need you to leave," one of the officers said to my parents. "What the hell is this?" Dad yelled, his face red with anger. "This is my son's house. I'm helping him." "No, you're not," the officer replied, a calm authority in his voice. "This is a break-in. You need to leave, now." I watched Dad's face twist into a grimace, and for a second I thought he might explode. But when the officer took a step forward, Dad balked. "You can't do this," he shouted. "This is my family. I'll take care of this myself." The officer didn't flinch. "Sir, you're going to need to leave, or we'll have to take you in." That's when Dad lost it. He started mouthing off, his hands flailing in frustration. I couldn't believe it. This was the man who'd taught me right from wrong. And now, here he was, doing the one thing I thought he would never do, resisting authority. It didn't take long for the officer to cuff him. The whole thing felt surreal. My own father, being arrested in my living room. "Take him out of here," the officer ordered, and within minutes, Dad was being escorted out of my house, his face a mask of anger and humiliation. The movers, confused but still standing around in the entryway, didn't know what to do. "Are we, unpacking?" one of them asked, looking between me and the officers. Get your stuff and leave, I said, barely looking at them. Leave the bill with whoever hired you. As soon as they left, I collapsed onto the couch, my head spinning. This wasn't how I'd imagined things would go. But damn it, I was done. No more pretending everything was okay, no more playing the role of the dutiful son. This was the line, and I wasn't stepping back. I just hoped they understood that, but part of me doubted they would. The phone didn't stop ringing. I ignored the first few calls, letting them go to voicemail, but then my mom called, and I knew what it was. Daniel, I need you to drop the charges. This has gone far enough. Your father's been arrested. He's at the station, and it's all because of you. Don't you care? Her voice was frantic, desperate, but beneath it all, I could hear the subtle threat. No, I said, cutting her off before she could say anything else. I'm not dropping anything. You crossed a line, and now you're going to deal with the consequences. You don't get to break into my house and think, I'll just let it go. Daniel, please, she pleaded, her voice softer now, as though she thought it would make a difference. This is your family. Blood is thicker than water. I felt my stomach churn. Family. The word tasted bitter. Family doesn't do what you did, Mom. Not to each other, not like this. She didn't respond right away. The silence stretched, and for a moment, I thought she might finally understand. But then the next words out of her mouth were sharp, accusing. You're making a huge mistake, Daniel. A huge mistake. You're choosing a house over blood. That was the moment. I didn't feel the expected weight of guilt, the burden I thought I'd carry from breaking their hearts. Instead, there was a sense of relief. It wasn't about a house. It wasn't about the stuff. It was about me standing up for myself. And that, for the first time in a long while, felt good. I took a deep breath. I'm done, I said, my voice steady. I'm done playing the role you've assigned me. This is the end. Don't call me again. Before she could say anything else, I hung up. And for the first time, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. I didn't feel the obligation to make excuses for choosing myself over them. I thought it would be the end of the storm, but it wasn't. A few hours later, my phone buzzed again. Grandma. I stared at the screen for a long moment before picking up. Daniel, please, she said, her voice trembling. You can't do this. Family is all you've got. Don't you care about your family? Her words hung in the air like smoke. I could hear the sadness in her voice, the genuine hurt. She was the one who had always defended me, who had stood by me when everyone else hadn't. But this was different. I rubbed my temples, feeling the exhaustion set in. No, Grandma, I said quietly. Family doesn't pull stunts like this. Not to each other. You all crossed a line. But you're breaking my heart, she said, and I could almost hear her crying. You're tearing the family apart. I felt the knot in my chest tighten, but I pushed it aside. Maybe the family was already torn apart before I stepped in, I said, my voice cold, though I didn't mean for it to be. I didn't choose to be the one left holding everything together while everyone else just takes. There was a long silence on the other end. I heard her shuffling, like she was looking for something to say that could fix it. But there was nothing left to fix. I'm sorry, Grandma, I added softly, but I wasn't going to back down. I'm done. I hung up. The quiet was almost too much. The house felt empty, despite the years of memories filling it. 3 days passed, 3 days of silence, no calls, no messages, just nothing. It wasn't what I expected. I thought I'd feel regret, guilt, but I didn't. I felt like I could breathe for the first time in years. Then, on the 4th day, the letter came. It was thick, official looking, like they'd planned it for a while. I stared at it, already knowing what it said. The moment I opened it, the words jumped out at me. We are disowning you for choosing a house over blood. I felt nothing. No shock, no sadness, just relief. They were done, and I didn't have to play along anymore. I tossed the letter aside and sat back in my chair, my eyes drifting to the big empty space in front of me. It wasn't just the house that had been taken. It was everything I had given away. And now it was mine again. I deleted every message from my phone, ignored every voicemail, the guilt trips, the apologies. None of it mattered. I wasn't going back. Work was a blur over the next few weeks. I buried myself in projects, in meetings, in everything that kept me from thinking about what I'd lost. But the more I focused on my own life, the more I realized how much I hadn't been living. I'd been so wrapped up in the idea of family that I forgot about me. And now, for the first time, I was taking care of me. There was no more Sunday dinners where they'd make me feel like I wasn't enough. No more guilt trips. No more being told I was selfish for not having kids. I learned something through all this. Choosing myself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. And if they didn't understand that, then they weren't my family, not anymore. I didn't expect the silence to last long. But when it did, it was like the calm before a storm. For the first time in years, I wasn't fighting for my space, my dignity, or my right to say no. They were the ones who had to come to terms with it. I was sitting at my desk one evening, going over a few work projects, when I saw her name flash across the screen, Grandma. I thought about ignoring it, but something in me snapped. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe a part of me still hoped for a scrap of decency left in the family. So I picked up. "Daniel," she said softly, like she was scared of what I might say. "I need to be honest with you." I leaned back in my chair, the weariness in my bones creeping up again. "About what?" "They've been planning it for months, Daniel," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "They were convinced you wouldn't put up a fight. Your mother and father, they thought they could just take your house and you wouldn't stop them." The words hit me like a punch. It wasn't just some random idea. It was a scheme, a plan they'd been working on, probably since I'd told them no the first time. "What the hell are you talking about?" I muttered, my head spinning. They were already talking about selling their place, but it wasn't enough to help Melanie and Travis. "Your house was the easier option," Grandma continued almost regretfully. "They figured it would just fall into place if they kept pushing. They thought you'd cave." I stared out the window, a mix of disbelief and anger bubbling up inside me. It had all been a game to them. They thought they could manipulate me into giving up my home, my life, for them. Just like that. "And you knew about this?" I asked, my voice rough. There was a long pause before she answered. "I didn't know the full extent, but yes, I knew they were planning to ask you. They'd even been talking about asking you to help with a down payment for a new place for Melanie and Travis." I rubbed my temples, trying to process the weight of it. If they'd just asked me for help, maybe I would have helped. Hell, I'd given them enough already. But this? This was beyond the line. They didn't want help. They wanted control. "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked, bitterness creeping into my voice. She sighed heavily on the other end of the line. "Because I didn't know how to make them stop, Daniel. I thought it would work itself out, that you'd handle it like you always do. But I see now, I should have said something sooner. I didn't know what to say. I was angry, but I didn't want to lash out at Grandma. She wasn't the one behind this. I let the silence stretch between us, my mind reeling. "They're selling their condo, right? What else?" Grandma hesitated before answering. "They sold it, and the studio. They're buying 2 smaller places now, one for themselves and one for Melanie's family. They think this is all over now, but they've only made things worse." I let out a dry laugh. If they'd just asked me for help with a down payment, I might have done it. I don't know. But trying to take it like this? I shook my head, though she couldn't see it. "It's done now. I'm done with all of them." Grandma was quiet for a long time, like she was trying to find the right words. "Daniel, I'm so sorry, I really am. But you've made the right choice. You've been more than generous with them. And they took it for granted. Yeah, I finally figured that out." She didn't argue. She didn't try to convince me to let it go, to make peace. She just sighed again. "I won't bother you anymore, but if you ever want to talk, I'm here." "I know, Grandma, I know." I hung up a few minutes later, the weight of everything finally settling in. I wasn't just losing family, I was losing the idea of family, the version they sold me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. 6 months passed. I kept to myself, focused on work and my own life. No more Sunday dinners, no more guilt trips about not having kids. Just me and my brick ranch, still the place I dreamed of owning, still mine, with no one else's expectations attached to it. I saw a lot of changes in those 6 months too. My parents sold their condo and the studio. They moved into 2 smaller places, just like Grandma said. One for them, and one for Melanie and Travis. But somehow that didn't feel like winning. It just felt sad. I might have helped them with a down payment. I might have been generous with what I had. But trying to take my house from me, that crossed a line I wasn't willing to forgive. I didn't feel the same kind of hurt I thought I would. Maybe because, deep down, I knew the relationship was never as strong as I thought. If they'd just been honest with me, maybe things could have been different. but forcing me out of my own home, that was it. So I lived, in the house I fought for, with my restored Chevy parked in the garage where it belonged. No more guilt, no more expectations. Just me, finally. I wasn't selfish for choosing myself. I was necessary. It's been 6 months since everything blew up. I'm still in my brick ranch, still park my Chevy in the big garage, and every day feels a little lighter than the one before. The house is still mine, just as it should be. I thought I'd feel the weight of what happened more. I thought I'd miss them. My family, that is. Sometimes the idea of family still tugs at me, but not the reality of dealing with entitled people. I don't go to Sunday dinners anymore. Don't hear my mom telling me I'm selfish for not having kids. I don't get those questions from my dad about why I'm still single. The phone doesn't ring with guilt-laden messages, and no one knocks on my door expecting to take something from me. That part, the part where I was always expected to give, it's gone, and I'm okay with it. I'll admit, at first I wondered if I made the wrong choice. Maybe I was too hard on them. But every time I thought about going back, about answering one of their calls, I remembered what they'd tried to do, how they'd thought they could just take everything from me. My house wasn't just a building to me. It was everything I'd worked for, everything I'd sacrificed to get. I busted my ass for years to own it. I stayed late at the office. I worked the night shifts. I paid off my own tuition, walked through every damn hardship alone. And now they thought they could just take it because I didn't fit the image they had in mind? Because I didn't fit their version of family? Hell no. I can't say I don't miss something. The idea of family, maybe. The dream that maybe one day someone would be there for me, like I'd always been there for them. But that's just it. It was a dream. And dreams don't always match the reality. The reality is, I'm not a punching bag. I'm not an ATM. And I'm not going to sit by while they try to take what's mine, because they don't like the life I've built for myself. I still have my friends. Some of them even stepped up when my family didn't. They're the ones who remind me that I don't need to settle for being treated like shit. I still enjoy my space. I walk into the living room and it's quiet, just the way I like it. No noise, no drama, no expectations. Choosing myself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. The first time I really understood that, it felt like a weight lifted from my shoulders. There's nothing wrong with wanting peace, with wanting to live life on my terms. And if that means being alone for now, fine, I'm okay with that. Maybe one day the idea of family will feel like something I can trust again. But until then, I've got what matters most, my own damn peace. And that's enough.